confidence and self-worth are not things that suddenly appear one day as if handed to you from the outside world. They are built brick by brick through the choices you make and the way you choose to show up for yourself each day. And here's the truth most people miss. Confidence is not about being louder, bolder, or pretending to have it all figured out. Real confidence comes from the quiet certainty that you are enough as you are, that your worth does not depend on constant approval or validation from others. For so long, many people tie their sense of worth to how others see them. If someone praises them, they feel good. If someone criticizes them, they shrink. Their entire identity becomes like a mirror reflecting back other people's opinions, and as a result, they feel like they can never be steady, never be sure of themselves, because they're always chasing acceptance outside of themselves. But the moment you stop chasing and turn inward, something shifts. You begin to see that your value doesn't fluctuate depending on how others treat you. Your worth is not a currency that rises and falls. It is constant, unshakable, and it's already within you. Building confidence starts with the smallest of steps. It's in keeping the promises you make to yourself, even the tiny ones. If you say you'll wake up early and you do, that builds trust. If you say you'll take care of your health and you follow through, that builds strength. Each time you keep a commitment to yourself, no matter how small, you are telling your mind, I can rely on me. And when you can rely on yourself, you stop needing so desperately for everyone else to reassure you. And then there's the role of failure. Most people see failure as the opposite of confidence, but in reality it is the foundation of it. Think about it. Confidence isn't built by never stumbling, it's built by stumbling and realizing you can get back up. Every time you face a setback and move forward anyway, you strengthen that inner belief that nothing can break you. Confidence grows not in the absence of challenges, but in your response to them. What's equally important is learning to separate self-worth from achievement. Too often, people confuse the two, believing that their value is tied to success, status, or recognition. But the truth is, even if you stripped all of that away, your job, your titles, your achievements, you would still be valuable. Self-worth comes from being, not from doing. When you understand that, you stop competing, you stop comparing, and you start standing firmly in who you are. Of course, this doesn't mean arrogance or thinking you're better than others. Real confidence is humble. It doesn't need to boast because it's not about proving anything. It's about knowing. Knowing you are enough. Knowing you have something to contribute. Knowing that your voice matters whether the whole room applauds or not. That kind of confidence is magnetic because it's rooted in authenticity. People are drawn to it not because it demands attention, but because it radiates truth. When you stop attaching your worth to others' opinions and start grounding it in who you truly are, you step into a new kind of freedom. You no longer need to beg for respect because your very presence demands it, not through force, but through clarity. And that clarity becomes the unshakable foundation upon which you build your life. And once you realize that your confidence and your worth are not something the world gives to you, but something you claim within yourself, no one can ever take it away. You said, respect is often misunderstood. Many people believe respect is something you earn by doing more for others, by being agreeable, by making sure everyone around you feels comfortable. But true respect doesn't come from bending over backwards or sacrificing your own well-being. It comes from standing firm in who you are. It comes from showing others that you value yourself enough not to accept less than you deserve. Respect is not something you chase, it's something you embody. And when you embody it, people feel it. Think about the times when you admired someone deeply. Was it because they were always saying yes, always available, always giving until they had nothing left? Or was it because they had a certain presence, a strength that came from knowing their own worth? People respect clarity. They respect boundaries. They respect someone who carries themselves with dignity, who doesn't compromise their values just to fit in or be liked. When you live that way, respect stops being something you're constantly searching for and becomes something that naturally surrounds you. Transforming respect into empowerment begins with changing the way you see yourself. If you don't respect your own voice, your own time, your own needs, no one else will. You teach others how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. If you constantly put yourself last, others will too. If you constantly dismiss your feelings, others will too. But when you begin to honor your worth, when you start protecting your peace, when you show through your actions that you value yourself, others have no choice but to follow that lead. What's powerful about this shift is that respect isn't just about how others treat you, it's about how you start to carry yourself in every part of life. Respect gives birth to empowerment because it frees you from the need to please. You are no longer driven by fear of rejection or the hope of constant approval. Instead, you are guided by an inner compass that keeps you steady no matter what's happening around you. That inner strength becomes empowerment. It fuels your decisions, it shapes your relationships, it allows you to walk into any room with your head held high, knowing you don't need to prove your worth to anyone. And empowerment doesn't mean domination. It's not about controlling others or demanding attention. True empowerment is calm, steady, and quiet. It doesn't need to shout because it's undeniable. People feel it in your presence. They sense it in the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the way you no longer shrink or apologize for existing. Empowerment is not about being above others. It's about standing equal, knowing you have as much right to take up space in this world as anyone else. And the beautiful thing is, once you begin to live from that space of empowered respect, everything changes. Your relationships deepen because they are built on honesty, not obligation. Your opportunities expand because people trust those who stand firmly in themselves. Your inner peace grows because you are no longer betraying yourself to win temporary approval. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to inspire others. By embodying respect and empowerment, you show those around you that it's possible for them too. When you transform respect into empowerment, you stop living life as a reaction to what others want and start living life as an expression of who you truly are. And that is the moment you step fully into your power. One of the hardest but most powerful lessons in life is learning how to set boundaries without guilt. For many, the word boundary feels like something harsh or selfish, as if drawing a line automatically means you're pushing people away. But the truth is, boundaries are not walls that separate us from others. They are doors that allow us to connect in healthier and more authentic ways. Without them, relationships become unbalanced, draining, and even damaging. With them, respect, trust, and genuine love can finally grow. The guilt comes because we've been conditioned to believe that saying no is a rejection, that it means we're being unkind or unloving. But let me ask you, when you constantly say yes to things you don't want, when you agree to commitments that leave you exhausted, when you allow others to treat you in ways that diminish your spirit, is that kindness or is it dishonesty? Because kindness without honesty is not kindness at all, it's a mask. A boundary, on the other hand, is an act of honesty. It's standing up and saying, this is what I can give, and this is what I cannot. It's letting people know where you stand so that your yes truly means yes, and your no truly means no. Think of it like this: if you keep pouring water from a glass without ever refilling it, eventually there's nothing left. Boundaries are the refill. They are the way you protect your energy, your time, and your peace, so that when you do give, it comes from a place of authenticity and not resentment. Without boundaries, even the most generous heart will eventually run dry. Now, I won't pretend it's easy. The first time you set a boundary with someone who's used to you always bending, there will be resistance. People may question you, they may push back, they may even try to make you feel guilty. But that's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you're changing a pattern they've grown comfortable with. Remember this: someone's discomfort with your boundary does not mean the boundary is wrong. It simply means they now have to adjust to relating to you in a healthier way. And here's something powerful to hold on to: boundaries don't push the right people away, they filter out the wrong ones. The people who truly care about you will respect your limits, even if it takes them a moment to adjust. The ones who only valued you for what you could give them will fade when you stop overgiving. And that's a gift, because it shows you clearly who belongs in your life and who does not. Setting boundaries is not about becoming cold or distant. It's about protecting the space where your real self can thrive. It's about saying, I respect myself enough not to let anyone cross this line, and I respect you enough to be clear about where it is. That clarity builds stronger relationships because it removes the unspoken resentment, the hidden frustration, the silent sacrifices. Instead, what's left is honesty, balance, and mutual respect. And once you taste the freedom that comes with it, you realize that boundaries are not restrictions at all, they're invitations. Invitations to deeper connection, to more genuine love, to relationships that uplift instead of drain. When you honor your boundaries, you're not shutting people out, you're showing them the real you, the one who knows her worth, the one who doesn't need to be everything to everyone, the one who finally understands that saying no to what diminishes her is the most powerful way of saying yes to what truly matters. And that, more than anything, is how you begin to live a life that feels like your own. Reclaiming your energy and focus is one of the most important steps you can take once you begin setting boundaries and building confidence. Because the truth is, when you spend years pouring yourself into everyone else's needs, you don't just lose time, you lose energy. And without energy, even the greatest dreams and the strongest intentions remain out of reach. Your focus becomes scattered, your spirit feels heavy, and life starts to feel like you're always running but never really moving forward. That's why reclaiming your energy is not selfish, it's survival, and it's the foundation of living with purpose. Energy is more than just physical strength, it's mental clarity, emotional balance, and even spiritual presence. Think about how often you felt completely drained, not because you were doing hard physical work, but because you were caught in the cycle of overthinking, overgiving, or overcommitting. These constant leaks of energy are subtle but powerful. A single negative conversation can sit with you for hours. A single obligation you didn't want to take on can pull at your mind for days. And slowly, piece by piece, your energy is given away to things that don't serve you, leaving very little for the things that do. When you begin to reclaim that energy, the first step is awareness. Ask yourself, what drains me? Who leaves me feeling heavy after I spend time with them? What habits or thoughts leave me exhausted even when I haven't moved an inch? These questions shine a light on the leaks that have been costing you your power. And once you see them clearly, you have a choice. You can either keep pouring energy into what depletes you, or you can redirect it toward what strengthens you. And this is where focus comes in. Energy without focus is like water spilling on the ground. It goes everywhere but nowhere. But when you focus that energy, it becomes like a river with direction, carving its way through even the hardest stone. That's why reclaiming your energy isn't enough. You must also choose what to do with it. Do you want to spend it chasing approval, or do you want to spend it building a life that excites you? Do you want to waste it on endless worries, or do you want to direct it toward growth, creativity, and meaning? Your energy is your most valuable currency, and where you spend it determines the quality of your life. And here's the beautiful part. When you reclaim your energy, you also reclaim your presence. Suddenly, you're no longer lost in distractions or obligations that don't matter. You're here now, fully engaged in what truly matters to you. Whether that's your work, your family, your passions, or your own inner growth, your energy becomes available for the things that deserve it most. And the more you align your focus with your truth, the stronger and more alive you feel. Of course, there will always be demands, there will always be people asking for more, and there will always be situations pulling at your attention. But the difference is, now you know you have a choice. You no longer give away your energy automatically. You decide where it goes. You protect it, you nurture it, and you use it to create a life that feels authentic. And when you do, something remarkable happens. You stop feeling like life is slipping away from you and start feeling like you are truly living it. You said, the people-pleasing trap is one of those cycles that can feel almost impossible to escape because it disguises itself as something good. You want to help, you want to be kind, you want to avoid hurting anyone, so you tell yourself that saying yes is the right thing to do. But beneath that surface lies a quiet fear, the fear of being disliked, the fear of disappointing someone, the fear of conflict. And when fear is guiding your choices, it doesn't matter how nice the actions look on the outside. Inside, you are giving up your freedom. This trap is powerful because it plays on the most natural human desire to belong. Every single one of us wants to feel accepted, to feel loved, to feel like we are part of something. That's not weakness, that's human nature. But when your sense of belonging comes at the cost of your own truth, you are no longer belonging, you are performing. You're wearing a mask, showing the version of yourself you think people want to see. And the more you perform, the further away you drift from who you really are. What happens then? You start living in constant tension. On the outside, people see a smiling face, someone agreeable, someone they can count on. But inside, there's a quiet resentment growing. You may not even admit it to yourself, but it's there. The resentment that comes from knowing you're saying yes to things you don't want, the frustration of never putting your own needs first, the exhaustion of carrying everyone else's expectations on your shoulders. And the more you ignore it, the heavier it gets, until eventually it shows up as burnout, anxiety, or even a deep sadness you can't quite explain. Here's the irony. The people-pleasing trap doesn't even achieve what you hope it will. You think it will make people like you more, respect you more, value you more, but the truth is, it often does the opposite. People start to take you for granted. They stop asking what you want because they already know the answer will be yes. They don't see your sacrifices because you've made it look effortless. And without realizing it, you've trained the people around you to believe that your needs don't exist. That's the painful truth about being caught in this cycle. You're giving away your worth in exchange for approval that is shallow, temporary, and conditional. The way out begins with honesty, not the kind of honesty that points fingers or creates blame, but the kind that starts with yourself. Ask, why am I saying yes? Is it because I genuinely want to help, or is it because I'm afraid of what will happen if I say no? That question alone can shine a light on how often fear is running the show. And once you see it, you can begin to shift. You can start practicing small, simple no's, the kind that remind you that your value doesn't decrease just because someone else is disappointed. You can start speaking your truth in little ways, reclaiming your voice piece by piece. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable at first. Saying no when you've spent your whole life saying yes feels like breaking a rule. But it's not breaking a rule, it's breaking a pattern. And every pattern you break brings you one step closer to freedom. The people who truly love and respect you will not abandon you because you said no. In fact, they'll respect you more because respect begins with self-respect. The trap of people-pleasing may look like kindness, but it is really a cage. And the moment you find the courage to step outside of it, that's when you finally begin to taste what real freedom feels like. You said, when we talk about this idea of being the nice girl, we're really talking about something much deeper than manners or kindness. It's about the pattern so many people fall into of constantly putting the needs of others ahead of their own. On the surface it looks admirable, always saying yes, always being available, always making sure no one is upset with you. People may even praise you for being considerate, for being dependable, for being the one they can always rely on. But inside, something starts to shift. Slowly, piece by piece, you begin to feel like you're disappearing, like your own needs don't carry weight anymore. That's the silent cost of being too nice. Think about it. Every time you say yes when you actually want to say no, you give away a little part of your energy. Every time you stay quiet when you wanted to speak up, you bury your own truth deeper inside. And every time you make sure someone else is comfortable while you feel uncomfortable, you train yourself to believe that your feelings don't matter as much as theirs. Over time, this pattern doesn't just affect your relationships, it begins to shape your identity. You start seeing yourself not as someone with dreams, desires, and boundaries, but as someone whose role is to make others happy. That is not who you are meant to be. It often begins in small, unnoticed ways. Maybe you agreed to help with a project you had no time for. Maybe you nodded along to a decision you didn't believe in. Maybe you laughed at a joke that hurt you because you didn't want to make things awkward. These little compromises feel harmless in the moment, but added together, they form a life that is not your own. That's the trap. You wake up one day and realize you've spent years living according to everyone else's expectations, and very little of your time has been spent living in alignment with your own truth. What makes this even trickier is that the world rewards the nice girl. People call you easy to work with, they call you sweet, they call you selfless, and at first those words feel good, but what they really mean is you're convenient. They can count on you to bend, to adjust, to sacrifice and never complain. And the dangerous part is, you start to mistake that praise for love, for respect, for value. But convenience is not the same as respect, and it's not the same as love. If people only value you for how much you give them while ignoring what you need in return, that's not respect, it's dependency. At some point you have to stop and ask yourself, what am I losing every time I silence my voice? What part of me is slipping away each time I say yes when I mean no? Because the truth is, the longer you live like this, the harder it becomes to even remember what you want, what you believe, what you stand for. You don't just lose your energy, you lose your clarity. And without clarity, it becomes almost impossible to build a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. The beautiful thing though is that it's never too late to change this pattern. The first step is awareness, seeing clearly how much of your life has been shaped by the desire to be liked, to be accepted, to avoid conflict. And the moment you see it, you've already taken a step toward freedom. Because once you recognize the cost of being too nice, you can begin to choose differently. You can begin to honor your voice, your boundaries, your needs, and when you do that, you don't become less kind, you become more real. And the world doesn't need more nice girls who disappear into the background of their own lives. It needs more women who are willing to live fully, speak honestly, and show up as their true selves, unapologetic and alive. You said,